Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind presence and association. As we continue, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verses 19 to 25, answers by citing the Lord's version. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapara Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Upesha Gopi Kakanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishwabhadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastyatara Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare सर्वशास्त्र पीयूषा सर्ववेदेक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांतरात्नाद्य सर्वलोकाय प्रदा सर्व भागवत प्राणा श्रीमद् भागवत प्रभु कलिद्वंदो दिदादित्य Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophic conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actual Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Prema Vrashasha Rayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute, O Srimad Bhagavatam. I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss, for your soul was very pure love upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madheka Bandhu Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namastute, O Srimad Bhagavatam. My only friend, my companion, my teacher, my great wealth, my deliverer, my good fortune, my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadu tadayina teni chochataraka hanamun chakada chinmam premna ritkati ospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to run saintly, uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest, Mahatma Trot, accompanying pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayari Taratas Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Tisargom Risha Damna Swena Sadani Rastakwakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading person out of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the prime cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even great sages and demigods are placed in illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water, seeing fire, land, seeing water. Only because of him did material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalpaisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Mateo Manda Bhagyopadrita, all in at one. In this iron age of Kali, many but short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narachevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the person of God in Narayan, unto Narayan Bishra, the supreme human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumsa Parodharma Yato Bhaktira Adokshaje Ahitukia Pratiyata Yatma Suprasiddhati, the supreme occupation dharma of all humanity, is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yatyusa Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahoitakam. By rendering devotional service under the person of God at Shri Krishna, one immediately causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattvavidas tattvam yaj gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shoshadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punyartita Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridanta Stoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, Super Soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor, truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment. From the heart of the devotees develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues and properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtiki. By regular intents and classes in the Bhagavatam and by writing a service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the person of Godhead, whose praise or transcendental soul is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Swadharmam Parinishthayas Janmalabha Paras Pumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the Supreme Personality of God at the end of Akama Sarva Kama Va Moksha Kama Udhariti Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajade Purusham Param. A person who has broader intelligence, where they be full of all material desires, without any material desires, desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna and welcome back. Let us cover any feedback anyone has from the last session. We are discussing Lord Brahma's performance of austerity. When he appeared on the lotus, he had no idea of his duties, his source, what he's meant to do. It's darkness all over, just exactly like our situation. We also born attached to the umbilical cord of the mother, just as Lord Brahma was attached or born from the lotus that sprouted from the umbilical cord. And when we appear, we also in complete ignorance, unaware of our duty, of our direction. And Brahma was fortunate that he heard the instructions given to him by the Supreme Lord in 2 letters, ta, pa. And by hearing that and following that, performed austerities, pleased the Supreme Lord, and the Lord appeared to him. We may hear the Supreme Lord, but we may not heed those instructions and we may not follow. So hearing is one thing. Applying what we hear is the next step. Mother Sharina says, Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisance and gratitude. The statement that made an impression on me is, there is no profit in beating the husks without grain. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penance for self-realization other than the penance of Bhakti Yoga. Yes. It's amazing how living entities influenced by the covering of the material energy, they just don't get it. Such a simple point or simple understanding of the process of Krishna consciousness becomes too complex, too difficult. And yes, for those souls who are, for example, in Satya Yuga, who live for 100,000 years, who perform austerities of Astanga Yoga for 60,000 years, if you had to go to them and say, just chant Hare Krishna, you'll be happy, then look at you very strange. Like, where did you come from? Which planet did you drop? because they used to performing great austerities. But in Kali Yuga, even with our disqualification, still we have such a high level of ego not to accept a process that is so simple. At least in Satya Yuga, they had some adhikar, they had some qualification to perform austerities. Consider Dhruva Maharaj, 6 months, performing such severe austerities, going to the forest alone. We can't even go on holiday alone. What about going to perform austerities alone? And then no food, no water, no air, staying on one foot. Small boy, maybe we should try that and then see, because sometimes we just don't get it. Okay, what to talk about? No food for months. You don't give Sunday feast, and people will complain. So yeah, it's like, let's try. Okay, from next week we're going to test. First, you can have water, but no food. No food for 1 week, and see what happens. There's Dhruv Maharaj. No complaining. Eventually, stop eating, stop drinking, stop breathing. That was his adhikar. That was his qualification. We have no such qualification. So we have no such qualification, and still we're so stubborn to accept the process that Lord Chaitanya, the Srila Prabhupada, and previous acharyas have given us. Sharina then continues, this may require sacrifice on our part, like giving up and abstaining from certain things, but ultimately this process will be our ultimate source of joy, as it will please Krishna. Yes. Secondly, the material body has ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. We can use these points as a measure for self-assessment to see if we are ready for Vaikuntha. It is not sometimes we take it for granted. Oh, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. I got my Kuntimala, I got my Sika, I got my Tilak, I got my Dhoti Kurta. I'm a devotee, I'm going back to Godhead. Sorry to disappoint you. The external dress, in one sense, has nothing to do with your destination. It is your internal qualification that determines your destination. That internal qualification, the state of your consciousness, the state of your heart, the state of your attachments, that determines where you go. Not so much your external dress. In fact, not even your dress at all. Put a dog in a doctor's coat, and will the dog become a doctor? Hell no. So our external dress really has no place without the internal consciousness. And Prabhupada made it very clear that we need to measure how much ignorance do I have? How much material conception, absorption in this body do I have? How much attachment and aversion do I have to things related to this material world? And how much am I absorbed in these attachments and aversions for my sense gratification? Simple way to assess my spiritual progress. And if somebody is serious, then they'll start measuring and making efforts to overcome these challenges. If and only if their destination is Vaikuntha. Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's lotus feet, Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. Otherwise, yeah, we carry on. So yes, we definitely have to keep these points in mind and apply and measure and move forward. Even though it may be an inch, I'm making only an inch of advancement. No problem. At least you're making advancement. There are souls out there that don't even consider making advancement. So at least I'm taking the next step because I'm closer to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us in so many ways, so many, in so many purports, Prabhupada is revealing the gems and the jewels of how we can measure our progress in Krishna consciousness. Then Shaman Nanda Prabhu says, very wonderful description of the spiritual world by Vaikuntha planets. What is there? What is not there? Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam giving us access to this realm. And why is Bhagavatam revealing? Bhagavatam is revealing the spiritual world in the episode of Lord Krishna appearing to Lord Brahma, who has performed austerities. So we are getting a glimpse of the spiritual world through the agency of the Lord revealing to Lord Brahma. First point Srila Prabhupada makes is that we're not interested in anyone's opinion. Our opinion is based on Krishna's. If Krishna says it's like this, bas. Decision made, opinion made. So here the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself is revealing the spiritual worlds directly. And if we now just accept that, yes, that spiritual reality exists, and the amazing thing is that's my home. That's where I belong. I don't belong here. I don't belong in this material world. This is not my place. I belong there in the spiritual world. And at least let me return back home. And let me do whatever it takes to get back home. Then when I'm at home and the Lord wants me to come and continue preaching, then so be it. One time Hamsadutta Prabhu asked Srila Prabhupada, are the acharyas that stay always in the material world? And Prabhupada said, yes. They stay in the material world simply to rescue and help souls come back home. At the same time, they're also eternally present in the spiritual form, in the spiritual world. So we are getting revelation not of Vaikuntha, that's one way to see it, but you are getting revelation of your home. This is our home. They say home, sweet home. So that's home. Now when we see it like that, oh, that's my home. Whenever somebody leaves home for holiday, for some activity, to work, to school, to shop, guess where do they return back? From shop, from excursion, from school, from work, back home. So here the Lord is revealing our home. And therefore the impetus to go back home to that environment that is so wonderful, free from all embroideries, free from all suffering, where time does not influence, There is no day and night. Absolutely no suffering at all. That's where we belong. And we need to move forward in that direction. Srila Prabhupada, in one of his purports that we covered, says, unfortunately, persons with impious backgrounds do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everyone wants to become God himself without any qualifications. Here's the interesting part. Even if you had the qualifications, still you couldn't become God. But even without qualifications, they claim to be God. This malicious nature in the conditioned soul continues even up to the stage when a person wants to be one with the Lord. And thus, even the greatest of empiric philosophers speculating on becoming one with the Supreme Lord cannot become a Paramhamsa because the malicious mind is there. So the real obstacle between you and Krishna is right in you, the mind. And therefore, again and again, Lord Krishna stresses, we need to control the mind. We need to subdue the mind. And how do we subdue the mind? How do we control the mind? You control the mind by not controlling the mind. Because controlling the mind is impossible. It was impossible even for Arjuna 5,000 years ago, who was an Aryan, who was very qualified. And yet Arjuna said it's easier to control the wind. So don't try to control the mind. Give the mind to Krishna and let Krishna control the mind. Simply offer the mind to Krishna in every activity throughout the day. Try to give the mind to Krishna. Try offering the mind to Krishna. How? Prabhupads give different ways. One of the most simplest ways is chant Hare Krishna. Keep Krishna in your mind. And in this way, by keeping Krishna at the lotus feet of his, keeping the mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then the mind can become purified. The mind can become a friend to help us on this journey, to always remember Krishna and never forget him. So now we're going to be covering verses 19 to 25. Being pleased, the Lord invites Brahma to ask for a benediction. So this is the section. Lord Brahma perfected his austerities, his penance of Krishna consciousness. Krishna appears to him. And it's interesting to hear what Krishna actually does in these verses. 19. Tam priyamanam samupastitam kavim praja visarge nijasa sanarhanam babasa esat smitasocishagira priya priyam pritamana karisprishan. And seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, to be controlled as he desired, and thus, being very much satisfied with him, the Lord shook hands with Brahma and slightly smiling, addressed him thus. So there is Brahma practicing austerity, penance for thousands of years. Nobody exists there. And then all of a sudden, this personality appears out of nowhere. Beautiful personality. Now, after such a long period of, you could say, non-existence, nobody but me here. It's like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden somebody appears. You may start to think, am I dreaming? Is this real? Am I hallucinating? I feel blissful, but are my eyes deceiving me? So in order to convince Lord Brahma that there is somebody standing here, no illusion, Krishna congratulates Brahma by shaking his hand. Shook his hand. Now, obviously, we have the idea of shaking, handshake, maybe, in terms of our concept. Different ways one can shake one's hand or hold hands. But the idea of the Lord contacting Lord Brahma physically, confirming that this is not a dream, this is not some hallucination. The creation of the material world is not blind or accidental. The living entities who are ever conditioned or nitya baddha are thus given a chance for liberation under the guidance of his own representative like Brahma. So here Srila Prabhupada again is establishing the purpose of creation. And thus the purpose of why we exist. Why are we in the material world? Well, you're in the material world to you are in the material world given an opportunity to become liberated again. You are in the material world given an opportunity to go back home. The Lord instructs Brahma in Vedic knowledge in order to diffuse this knowledge to the conditioned souls. And we are blessed. We have this knowledge coming down directly from Lord Brahma. We are directly connected to this disciplic succession of knowledge coming down from Lord Brahma. The conditioned souls are forgetful of their relationship with the Lord, and thus a period of creation and the process of dissemination of Vedic knowledge are necessary activities of the Lord. So if somebody had to ask, well, why do we exist? Why it is a creation? I mean, why all this commotion? Well, this commotion is because you have forgotten the Supreme Lord. And therefore, for you to have an environment to carry out that forgetfulness, at the same time, for you to be reminded of your forgetfulness, the Lord has created the creation, and the Lord has empowered Lord Brahma with that power to create as well as to disseminate the truth. So you can achieve both. One is fulfill your material desires until you realize that that was the biggest mistake and that actually I need to stop enjoying separately from the Supreme Lord. I am part and parcel with the Supreme Lord. I've forgotten the Supreme Lord. I've forgotten my relationship. I need to revive my relationship. I need to chant the holy name of the Lord, and I need to perfect and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and return back home. But Brahma has a great responsibility in delivering the conditioned souls, and therefore he is very dear to the Lord. When we also are connected to the Supreme Lord, and when we also remember that this is what every living entity is meant to be doing. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he knew perfectly well his relationship with the Supreme Lord. And therefore, with that compassion, he was able to give Krishna consciousness to others. And this made him very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada often would say that Lord Krishna is very pleased when even one living entity returns back home. Why wouldn't Krishna be pleased? He's the Supreme Father. And when a lost child comes back home, the parents are very happy. So for anyone that is helping, that's facilitating, that's encouraging souls to surrender to the Supreme Lord, they become dear to the Supreme Lord. And here we see Brahma, who has this responsibility to deliver the conditioned souls, becomes very dear to the Supreme Lord. Even though it is his responsibility, but in that responsibility, he pleases the Supreme Lord. Brahma also does his duty very perfectly, not only by generating the living entities, but also by spreading his party for reclaiming the fallen souls. Can you imagine when Srila Prabhupada is writing this or dictating this? It's like we may be reading this, or even I may be reading this. And yes, I know perfectly well that I'm connected to Srila Prabhupada, who's connected to the Guru Parampara, who's connected to Lord Brahma. So when Prabhupada is saying the living, but also spreading his party for reclaiming the fallen soul, so we are part of this party that's connected to Lord Brahma. But when Srila Prabhupada is dictating or writing, he is emotionally connected. We may be intellectually connected. Srila Prabhupada is emotionally connected because of pure love. So when he's writing this, he's writing with ecstasy. That yes, Lord Brahma is in such a glorious position and he has extended that mercy by expending his party for spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada has done the same. Single-handedly, he went to the West, spread Krishna consciousness, and he extended his party across the globe. So anyone that is helping Srila Prabhupada somehow or other connect to souls, bring souls back to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is very dear. And we should be looking for opportunities to endearing ourselves to the Supreme Lord. So here is one way we can take advantage of the opportunity so that we can become dear to the Supreme Lord. Try to extend ourselves to reclaiming the fallen souls, even if it means one person. And how do we do that? We can go out and distribute the holy name. We can distribute prasad. We can distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. We can cultivate souls, befriend souls and give them Krishna consciousness, somehow or other. Bring souls back onto the path. And just like an army has the warriors in front, the soldiers that are going, and they all definitely also have those who are supporting the army. Somebody who's a warrior with his machine gun, he's not cooking, he's not in the kitchen cooking, but he needs to eat. Without filling the tummy, there is no army. So the soldiers, the warriors, they need food, they need sustenance. So somebody is cooking, somebody is making provisions. When the soldier gets wounded, somebody is making provisions for medical care. When their bullets finish, somebody is making arrangements to fill up the artillery. And those individuals are also taking part in the war by facilitating. So like that, we can also be in the forefront and we can also be in the backup team, assisting in different capacities. So everyone can somehow or other be part of this responsibility, of this opportunity by the mercy of Lord Brahma, coming through disciplic succession. The party is called the Brahma Sampradaya. And any member of this party to date, what does that imply? And any party to date, oh, that includes me, that includes you. All right. I never know Bhagavatam has something about me. Okay. Yes, Bhagavatam telling us something about you. Srila Prabhupada telling us something about you. Let's see what he says. Any member of this party to date is naturally engaged in reclaiming the fallen souls back to God at back home. Now, if you consider yourself to be a member of this party to date, December 2024, then here is your duty, your responsibility to naturally engage in reclaiming the fallen souls back home, back to God. And somebody may say, well, but Prabhu, I'm a fallen soul. How can I help people? And we already mentioned, it doesn't mean that you have to be a pure devotee for you to prasad. That you have to be a pure devotee to distribute books. You have to be a pure devotee to go out and chant Hare Krishna. Or you have to be a pure devotee to do any service that facilitates these activities. Anyone and everyone, somehow or other, can be engaged. And it is these activities, because we are connected to a glorious disciplic succession, which has a glorious responsibility that makes one dear to the Supreme Lord, that becomes our saving grace. On our own, we definitely cannot make it. But when we are serving those who are serving those who are serving those who are serving those who are serving Lord Brahma, who are serving the Supreme Lord, now there is a chance. The Lord is very much anxious to get back his parts and parcels, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. No one is more dear than one who takes the task of reclaiming the fallen souls back to Godhead. So somehow or other we need to meditate on this, contemplate, and not just meditate and contemplate. Take action, do something. Take full advantage of this opportunity. Help someone in their journey to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many renegades from the Brahma Sampradaya whose only business is to make men more forgetful of the Lord and thus entangle them more and more in material existence. What a revelation. Prabhupada says there are many renegades from the Brahma Sampradaya, those who are apparently connected to the disciplic succession. So don't be surprised that there are those who are actually apparently connected in line in the disciplic chain, but their objective is to encourage forgetfulness of the Lord and entangle the soul more and more in material existence. You're always going to get these two examples, those who we should follow and who are examples for us to lead our life and to embrace their way of life, to remembering the Lord and surrendering to the Lord. And there are those who are also examples for us within the same line of activities that we should not embrace. It's not about, oh, why did he do that? Or why did they do that? Oh, just see, he's a devotee, he's not supposed to do that. No. Oh, just see, he's a member of the Brahma Sampradaya, he's not supposed to do that. Oh, that's not what Srila Prabhupada said. Why are they doing that? Prabhupada is making very clear here. There are those who are fortunate to follow the example of Lord Brahma and become dear to the Supreme Lord. And there are those who are renegades, who are also connected to disciplic succession, but who are not following the instructions to endear them to the Supreme Lord. And then you may also get those who may be connected to the disciplic succession, who are placed there by the Supreme Lord himself, and they may be exalted, great, pure personalities, but they are there to teach an example of what not to do. So we should always, as Prabhupada says, be like the honeybee that is only looking for honey. And even though there may be so many bins with so much rubbish, but you will never ever find a bee sitting on a rubbish dump. Isn't that surprising? And there may be so much honey in so many flowers. Did you ever find a fly sitting on a flower? Going into the flower trying to get the honey? No. Why? Because it's a fly. So similarly, we, in order to protect our own devotion, we need to always look for the honey amidst the flowers and keep away from the dirt. Prabhupada then continues. Such persons are never dear to the Lord, and the Lord sends them deeper into the darkest region of matter, so that such envious demons may not be able to know the Supreme Lord. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you are connected, if you are given the responsibility, and if you distract souls away from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, you will get a reaction. It's like, oh yeah, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Here we see Prabhupada making it very clear that such souls, they don't attract Krishna's mercy, because they're exploiting their responsibility they will have to suffer the consequence. In Sri Upanishad also it is described that somebody is ignorant, he goes to hell. Somebody who's sinful, he goes to hell. Somebody who's meant to be a teacher, who engages in sin and deviates people, he goes lower than hell. So with great responsibility, and we have been given that opportunity of having the responsibility, because Prabhupada in many purports says every member is meant to help his mission in Krishna consciousness. So we are given that responsibility. So with that responsibility comes another act of responsibility to be very diligent in how we presenting Krishna consciousness, how we are helping souls. So with this responsibility, we need to make sure that we are not adding or we're not creating disservice. Because it's better to be not engaged, so we're not disturbing souls, than to apparently be engaged and doing disservice in the name of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada then continues, anyone, however, preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of Brahma Sampradaya is always dear to the Lord. And the Lord, being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult, shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. Sometimes devotees have this question, how do I know I'm pleasing Krishna? How do I know I'm pleasing the Guru? How do I know if I'm pleasing Srila Prabhupada? Well, here's one statement. Anyone. That means you don't need to be a GBC, a temple president, a temple commander, a head pujari, a bhakta leader, a Sankirtan leader. It says anyone. Preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya. That means preaching, taking up the mission of Srila Prabhupada and preaching according to how Srila Prabhupada wants is always dear to the Lord. And the Lord, being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult, shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. So if one is faithful, if one is sincere, if one is abiding by the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, then it means Krishna is shaking your hands. Now somebody must say, but Prabhupada, I don't feel anybody shaking my hand. Just like Prabhupada says, Krishna is speaking to you from inside and you can't hear. Krishna is shaking your hand and you can't experience. If somebody is taking rest and they're deep in daydream land, and then you come and you shake their hand, will they recognize that you are shaking their hands? No. But are they shaking your hand? Yes. So Krishna is shaking hands. But right now you cannot realize the shaking. So, as Prabhupada would say, there is only time separating you from realizing that, oh, Krishna is shaking my hand. So we only do two things. One is we continue rendering such service and patiently waiting, practicing the process, and waiting for that full manifestation, full realization full awareness that Krishna was always and has always been shaking my hand. We simply have to have the faith of Prabhupada's instruction and that of what he has written. As Prabhupada says, when you're chanting Hare Krishna, you are seeing Krishna's smiling face. But Prabhu, I chant Hare Krishna every day and I don't see Krishna's smiling face. In fact, I see many other things in my mind. I don't see Krishna's smiling face. No problem. Because Prabhupada said the perfection of chanting Hare Krishna is seeing Krishna's smiling face. So it's only time. Are you going to change the process or the activity? No. You're doing the same activity of chanting Hare Krishna. Just more diligently, patiently, you continue. And one day, that chanting will be revelation. That chanting will be Krishna's smiling face. This is the beauty of the process of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness, the process of bhakti yoga, devotional service, the means is exactly the same as the end. What we're trying to achieve is exactly as the process that we're embracing. They're one and they're non-different. They're one and the same. This is the beauty of this beautiful process. So we should know that the process that I'm embracing, hearing and chanting the holy names of Krishna, is actually perfection. It's just that right now I'm not mature in that perfection. Prabhupada gives the example of the mango. That the ripe mango and the green mango, they're both mangoes. It's just that the green mango is not yet fully ripened, but it's a mango. Just needs some time. With the connection to the tree, it'll get ripe. When they asked Srila Prabhupada, how many pure devotees do I have? Prabhupada said, how many devotees I have? Same point. Because Prabhupada wasn't seeing according to the relative perspective that we see. Prabhupada is seeing the connection, the process, and therefore the outcome. So understanding this, we should become completely convinced, beyond all doubt, that I should never give up this process. Because as long as you're on the path, as long as you are on this road, sooner or later, if one doesn't become a fly and one doesn't start an offensive mentality and continue sincerely, the process will do the rest. 20. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Tvayaham Toshita Samyag Vedagarbha Shishrikshaya Shiram Britena Tapasa Dushtosha Kutayoginam. The beautiful personality of Godhead addressed Lord Brahma. O Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance, with the desire for creation. Hardly I am pleased with the pseudo mystics. So Krishna was beautiful. Krishna is eternally beautiful. When Lord Brahma saw beautiful Krishna, naturally, it gave him such great satisfaction. And then the Lord, one of his names is Satya Sankalpa. Whatever the Lord says becomes true. impregnated with the Vedas, immediately Lord Brahma is empowered with the Vedas. Now, why is the Lord giving his beautiful darshan to Lord Brahma, shaking his hand so that Lord Brahma knows this is real, and blessing him with the Vedas? Krishna is saying, I'm very much pleased with your long accumulated penance. This is also related to the point that just chanting Hare Krishna, like for example, Prabhupada made it very clear, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Now, we chant Hare Krishna, and very often we are unhappy, we are disturbed, we're in anxiety, we are worried, we are depressed, we are paranoid. But Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So it seems contradictory. Well, it's chant Hare Krishna for a consistently long time until your heart is very purified and be happy. So there is more to it than just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. In between, there is that long period of chanting Hare Krishna. Like one time, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj's disciples went to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj and said, Guru Maharaj, we've been chanting 64 rounds. We've been chanting Hare Krishna, but nothing seems to be happening. No ecstasy and no symptoms of love of Krishna, tears coming from our eyes, etc. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, I'm glad. Because if you had to say, oh yes, Guru Maharaj, I've been chanting 64 rounds one day and I'm feeling the ecstatic symptoms of Bhava Bhakti, I would be worried. So the process is not cheap. The process is simple. The process can be easily applied. But depending on our baggage, it's not going to be easy. So therefore, it requires a sufficiently long time to be able to consistently apply the process to consistently get the benefit of purification. Are we becoming purified by the process of Krishna consciousness? Yes. How much depends on our effort, depends on our determination, depends on my aspiration, depends on my focus. In the Madhurya Kadambini that I did in level 1, there's one section which I didn't touch on, which we'll cover in level 2. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he describes in Chaitanya Shikshamrita in great detail how impressions are created in the mind. And one of the points he makes there very clear is that it is only when the mind focuses are impressions created. So he's describing how the mind, because all this impression, the samskaras that we get accumulated over lifetimes and lifetimes, they become obstacles. So in that process, he's making the point that the mind only gets an impression when there's a focus. Now we can take that same statement and says that the holy name only has effect, or the purification of Cheto Darpana Marjanam, when there is focus. When the mind is focused, that means what? When I'm chanting the holy name of Krishna, I'm chanting and I'm hearing. So if the mind is not focused on hearing, then the holy name is not going in and it's not creating the Cheto Darpanam. It's not creating that impression of Krishna. And what's interesting, we know, is that the mind cannot multitask. Multitask is a myth. They say Mahabharata is a myth. No, multitasking is a myth. Somebody say, no, Prabhu, I can drive and I can also see the road. I can chant and I can also speak on the phone. That's multitasking. No, that's not multitasking. Because of the speed of the mind is able to switch so fast in nanoseconds, in even smaller than micro nanoseconds. I don't know what's smaller than a nisha. So a nisha is a quarter of a second. So the mind is able to flick, perform activities so fast. Therefore, it's able to spend time here and time there, time here and time there. And from a material perspective, because it's so fast and it's able to give time on both activities, it's apparently seeming like I can multitask. But because you are giving time to both activities, like chanting Hare Krishna and doing something else, it seems like you are also hearing and that there's no interruption, but actually that is inattentive, that is interruption. And because of that, the due result does not take place. So Lord Brahma, he was not distracted. He was absorbed in performing austerities continuously for a long period, non-stop, with no distraction. And that pleased the Supreme Lord. So we also want to develop this behavior of being absorbed without distraction. Prabhupada in the purport says there are two kinds of penances. One for sense gratification and the other for self-realization. There are many pseudo-mystics who undergo severe penances for their own satisfaction, which means that they may be doing so many austerities. It seems like they're contributing such great sacrifices. They're so selfless. But the underlying current is, what is it for me? I'm doing all this so that I can enjoy. We find the demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, all these great demons, they perform such severe austerities. Sometimes when I'm reading the Bhagavatam or I see them in these movies, and you see that, it's like how much sense control they have. I mean, Hiranyakashipu was standing there for thousands of years on one foot. Fire was eventually coming out. How much control, how much power, how much determination they had. If we could just get an ounce of that determination, we can be successful. But even with such great austerity, sacrifice, penances, the demon's underlying current was aham mameti, for me, for my own sense gratification. Then Prabhupada continues, and there are others who undergo severe penances, like Lord Brahma, for the satisfaction of the senses of the Lord. So, yes, it's going to be difficult. The process of Krishna consciousness may not be that easy according to the environment that we're in. But if we persist, if we embrace with determination and consistently continue with the underlying basis of pleasing Krishna, then that will lead to seeing Krishna, getting the handshake, and realizing the handshake. But penances like those undertaken to discover nuclear weapons will never satisfy the Lord. By nature's own way, everyone has to meet death. And if such a process of death is accelerated by anyone's penances, there is no satisfaction for the Lord. It's interesting how Prabhupada, he starts off, obviously, he's speaking about penances, which is related to Lord Brahma's penances. And Lord Krishna is saying, I'm pleased with you, but I'm not pleased with the mystics. And then all of a sudden, Prabhupada brings the reality of nuclear war right after this two sentences. That yes, it's a penance. Penance means some difficult endeavor. If you look, for example, a businessman, a scientist, an inventor, even a builder, even mothers, parents, even students, every single one of us and every single one of these individuals are engaging penances. A student, he has to study. He's engaging penance. He can't go to the party, he can't party every night. He has to sacrifice his party time to study. Somebody has to work. He would love to be at the temple 24 hours a day, every day, but he has to go to work. Parents sacrificing the sleepless nights to raise children. Scientists spending hours and hours and hours trying to discover something that fails and fails and fails and never giving up. So every single one of us are endeavoring and embracing penances to some degree or other. But the question we have to ask is, the penance that I'm engaging, is that pleasing the Supreme Personality of God? Is that for the satisfaction of Krishna? Because I may invent something beautiful, something even powerful like the nuclear war weapons. And somebody may say, you know how much time I spent on this, you know how much sacrifice I did. You won't believe how much I sacrificed. You'll faint if I tell you how much I sacrificed. Well, if it was not for the satisfaction of Krishna and it is not pleasing Krishna, then Shreva Eva Kevalam, it's a total waste of time. Then Prabhupada continues, the Lord wants every one of his parts and parcels to attain eternal life and bliss. How? By coming home to Godhead. And the whole material creation is meant for that objective. Somebody may ask, so Prabhu, what does the Lord want me to do? Well, Prabhupada is making very clear. The Lord wants who? Everyone of his part and parcel. To do what? To attain eternal life and bliss. Eternal life and bliss. How? By coming back home to Godhead. So to return back to the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the duty, the responsibility, the aspiration, the vision of every living entity. That should be the goal. And in order to facilitate that, in order to do that, the whole material creation is meant for that objective. So everything that we experience in the material world, the good, the beautiful, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is all meant for this objective. Somehow or other to direct the living entity back to this realization. And the sooner we get it, the sooner we will save ourselves from a lot of inconvenience and trouble. Now, does that mean that if I get it, okay, so I know I'm going back, I need to go back to God. I need to chant Hare Krishna. Does that mean that I'm not going to get any trouble? Sorry. As long as you're in the material world, you're going to be troubled. But if your focus is right, and when death comes, and you pass the examination, and you return back home, now there is no trouble. So as long as you have not perfected your life, be on alert, be ready to embrace whatever difficulty may come along the way, but with the objective to become even more serious, to be Krishna conscious. In one verse, when we were, one of the verses in the Bhagavatam, when we were studying in India under His Grace Gurujan Prabhu, then there was one verse where he made this point, that it says you should continue until your final breath. So the result really will come after the final breath, not necessarily before. Yes, there is Jivan Mukta, which means you can get liberation even while you're living. So that is there. You can perfect your Krishna consciousness even before you die. Like here, for example, of Brahma, he appeared, right? And at the dawn of his birth, he perfected his life. He hasn't even started creation, which means he hasn't even started his 100-year journey for his existence. So he's perfected his life right at the dawn. He's Jivan Mukta. So that can be there. But generally, most people will be tested at the time of death. And at the time of death, that's when all trouble ceases, when you return back to the spiritual world. So therefore, until then, be alert. And if troubles come, embrace it in the proper Krishna conscious perspective. Chant Hare Krishna and keep surrendering. Prabhupada then continues, Brahma underwent severe penances for that purpose, namely to regulate the process of creation so that the Lord might be satisfied. Therefore, the Lord was very much pleased with him, and for this, Brahma was impregnated with the Vedic knowledge. The ultimate purpose of Vedic knowledge is to know the Lord and not to misuse the knowledge for any other purposes. Those who do not utilize the Vedic knowledge for that purpose are known as Kuta yogis or pseudo-transcendentalists who spoil their lives with ulterior motives. Now, we are also yogis. We are called bhakti yogis. We engage in the process of devotional service. And as yogis, what can spoil our devotional process? Just like milk, Prabhupada says milk is brain food. Milk is very nutritious. Now, that milk that is nutritious, when it's touched by a lips of a serpent or by tamarind, by souring agent, then that milk turns into yogurt, gets spoiled from its milk state. Similarly, as devotees, as bhakti yogis, those who are practicing Krishna consciousness on the path of bhakti yoga, what can spoil my endeavors, my process of engaging in devotional service? What is that tamarind sauce? What is that souring agent What is that poison? There are many. In this purport, Prabhupada is saying ulterior motive. Is your motive anything else other than to please Krishna? If your motive is other than pleasing Krishna, other than pleasing Hari Guru Vaishnava, Bhagavata Gita, then you are not getting the desired result. You are Kuta Yogi. Your process is getting spoiled. An ulterior motive can then be understood or expanded in so many ways. But ultimately, we should be very, very careful. We have to analyze, what is my intention? What is my underlying motive to serve? In the Madhura Kanambini, we cover many, many of these ulterior motives, many obstacles, anartha, unwanted sense gratification of different sorts. Ultimately, the desire not to please Krishna. 21. Varam varaya badram te varesham mahabhi vanchitam brahman shreya parishrama pumsam mad darshanam vadi. I wish you good luck, O Brahma. You may ask from me, the giver of all benedictions, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction as a result of all penances is to see me by realization. So very nice. Varam varaya badram te. The Lord shook his hands and said, congratulations, well done, and I wish you all the best. So Krishna is a person. He's a beautiful person. He's a loving person. He's a very conscientious person. He's congratulating, he's thanking, he's giving his best wishes. And then he's also saying, ask for anything you want, Lord Brahma. And in the last part, the Lord says, the result of all penances is to see me by realization. So again, the same point, pumsam mad darshana vati. Our process to engage in Krishna consciousness, the reason why we are engaging in Krishna consciousness ultimately is to see Krishna. Prabhupada's purport. The ultimate realization of the supreme truth is knowing and seeing face to face the personality of God. So we start with knowing. And by knowing that Sambandha Gyan, we are then exposed to Abhideya. The process of taking that knowing together with the process to make that knowing a realization, we will then get the prayojan, which is seeing face to face the Supreme Personality of God. Prabhupada would rephrase this in different ways. Prabhupada would say religion means to know God and love God. So knowing first, understanding, knowing, and that is why we need to be exposed to Prabhupada's books, because whatever we need to know, Prabhupada said, is in my books. Now, yes, are there other aspects of Krishna's glories and truths that are not in Prabhupada's books? Yes. But why are they not there is because they are not currently relevant for us right now. They may be there in seed form, but they're not relevant right now for us. What is relevant for us right now, according to my current situation, is what Prabhupada has given us in his books. So therefore, we should be exposing ourselves to all of Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports. Before we die, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said that we should read Chaitanya Charitamrita at least 100 times in one life. It's like a maha challenge. So we have so much to expose ourselves, so much to digest in terms of knowing at least that part, that we should have no time to do anything else. Once we've gone through that and we've understood, we've digested the knowledge, naturally part of the process, we will become convinced of the process. And what is the process? The process is very simple. Chant Hare Krishna. When you're convinced of the process and you give your heart, yourself, everything to the process of chanting the holy name of Krishna, then in due course of time, not overnight, if it happens overnight, you are blessed, but not overnight. Or if it happens overnight, it's because in your past, you really put the effort. So it really didn't happen overnight. It seems like it happened overnight, but no, it did not happen overnight. It was a continuation of past endeavors that was long. And after that long penance of bhakti yoga of chanting Hare Krishna, we will see the Lord face to face. Realization of the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma features of the personality of Godhead is not the ultimate realization. When one realizes the Supreme Lord, one does not struggle hard to perform penances to achieve some higher realization. So it will become easier. It will become, as one realizes more and more the Supreme Personality of God and the process of Krishna consciousness, it should become sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Shouldn't become a struggle. The chanting in the beginning is a struggle. It should become easier and easier as you progress. Getting up for Mangal Arati in the beginning should be a struggle. As you become more and more mature, it should become easier and easier and easier. Reading Srila Prabhupada's books in the beginning should be a struggle. As you continue to practice, it become easier and easier and easier. Hearing Krishna Katha should be a struggle in the beginning. As you continue and mature, it should become easier and easier. In fact, you should start developing a greater and greater taste to such a level that your mind, your attention, your heart is attracted to these activities. Prasad in the beginning is blissful. It's the only activity that's not an endeavor. That's not a struggle. And because you get old, Prabhupada said, a young man can eat anything and as much as he wants. But as you get older, then it becomes more and more of a struggle. So then one becomes selective. When one realizes the Supreme Lord, one does not struggle hard to perform penances to achieve some higher realization. The next stage of life is to discharge devotional service to the Lord just to satisfy Him. So why am I learning all this? Not to become professor number one. Why am I doing Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhava and all these, so that I can have a certificate and show people, oh, just see, I got Bhakti Shastri, I'm so intelligent. No. The only reason I'm hearing all this, the only reason I'm exposing myself to this knowledge is for the pleasure of Krishna. It's for my own purification. In other words, one who has realized and seen the Supreme Lord has attained all perfection because everything is included in that highest perfectional stage. The impersonalists and the pseudo-mystics, however, cannot reach the stage. So, engaging in any other subsidiary activities, even though it may give one realizations of Brahman or Paramatma, is not sufficient in itself to give you full realization and the appearance of the Supreme Personality of God. It is only through the process of Krishna consciousness. 22. Manis sitanubhava yam mama lokavalokanam yad upashrit yad upashru tyarasi chakarta paramam tapa. The highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes. And this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order. It's another beautiful verse describing how we can also achieve perfection. See, knowing the process and applying the process is one thing. But understanding the mood of how to apply the process is also important, because without that, you will not achieve the desired result. So just the action, the activity of performing the process is not sufficient in itself to give the desired result. Oh, Prabhu, you know, he's been practicing Krishna consciousness for 30 years. Oh, for 100 years. Oh, for 20 lifetimes. Does that mean he's advanced? No. We have to understand what is the mood. What is the attitude of that activity? Because without the proper attitude, we're not getting the desired result. So Prabhupada is going to expand on this point. The highest perfectional stage of life is to know the Lord by actual oral perception, by the grace of the Lord. So how do we see Krishna? It starts with our ears. How did Brahma see Krishna? It started with the he heard Tapa. And then what did he do? He followed that advice. So for us also, it starts off by hearing. Hearing means from Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports. Prabhupada also said reading means hearing. And this we should understand. If we are able to hear Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, if we are able to read Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purport, it means we've got the grace of Krishna. Then Prabhupada continues, this can be attained by everyone who is willing to discharge the acts of devotional service to the Lord as enjoined in the revealed scriptures that are standard and accepted by the bona fide acharyas, the spiritual masters. So yes, I read, I hear that I need to engage in devotional service. And we know in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada, has given us the angas of devotional service are described. When I know I need to engage in devotional service, it's not like now, okay, I go and I engage in devotional service according to my understanding. No, Prabhupada is writing here. This can be attained by everyone who is willing to discharge the acts of devotional service. So that willingness, that greed to engage in devotional service, I want to serve. As long as that does not take birth, when that want is not there, I want to serve, I want to do this, I want to engage in devotional service, we still got a long way to go. When that want is there, I want to serve. We find the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they had such intense greed to do whatever Srila Prabhupada wanted, beyond any material consideration. Such intense want. They were looking how they can render service to Srila Prabhupada. So that discharge, willing to discharge the acts of devotional service to the Lord, as enjoined in the revealed scriptures that are standard and accepted by the acharyas, bona fide acharyas, spiritual masters. So we are willing to engage in devotional service according to standards, not whimsical, not according to what I think. So that's why rules and regulations in the beginning is key, is important, according to the acharyas that who have set these standards. In our case, according to how Prabhupada has set the standards. That is why you find in Nectar Devotion, when all the angas are described, the first 5 angas are related to following according to the spiritual master. And for us, our instructions, our preeminent Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada. So all our spiritual masters, everyone in our society, in our line is meant to follow Srila Prabhupada. They cannot concoct another standard. Srila Prabhupada is that acharya that lays down the standard. If you want to create another standard, you have to create another society. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is the approved Vedic literature, accepted by all great acharyas such as Sankara, Ramanuja, Mappa, Chaitanya, Vishwanath, Baladev, Siddhanta Saraswati, and many others. In that Bhagavad Gita, the personality of God, Shri Krishna, asks that one always be mindful of him, always be his devotee, always worship him only, and always bow down before the Lord. And by doing so, one is sure to go back home, back to Godhead, without any doubt. In other places, also the same order is there, that one give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto the Lord without hesitation. And the Lord will give such a devotee all protection. These are the secrets of attaining the highest perfectional stage. So the point is, these instructions, these standards are already there. The question is, are you hesitating? And to what degree are you hesitating? Brahma was submissive. He heard tapa. Tapa. Anyway, I don't have time for tapa. I wonder what it means. Started concocting, started thinking, started contemplating, started wasting time, started trying to understand how he can exploit that for his own self-gratification. No, he was submissive and he did not hesitate. That was his attitude. So he followed the standard. He had no ulterior motive, no hesitation. He was submissive, no interruption, and for a long time. And this pleased the Supreme Lord. So here Prabhupada is giving an example. Krishna's laid the standard in Bhagavad Gita. That standard has been accepted by all acharyas, Sankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Vishwanath, Baladev, Siddhanta Saraswati, and Srila Prabhupada. And what are some of the standards? Very simple. One's mind, always be mindful of Krishna. So think of Krishna. Become his devotee. Worship him. Only. Bow down before him. Surrender to him. Engage in devotional service. And there may be the details that are given, but the standards are there. We simply have to embrace without hesitation. And as Prabhupada and as Krishna and all the acharyas have said, without doubt, we'll go back to Godhead. So without perfecting this aspect of devotional service, we should not expect the desired outcome of complete purification, completely seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and returning back home, back to Godhead. We have to understand that this is the journey, this is the process, this is my path, and I should be willing to and convinced to embrace it, and then take the journey with full conviction, commitment, and then we'll see the results. As Prabhupada would say, it's science. If you embrace it, the result will be there. Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex. And thus, he attained the highest stage, highest perfectional stage of experience, of experiencing the abode of the Lord and the Lord himself with all his paraphernalia. What is the superiority complex that Prabhupada is talking about here? Just consider. Lord Brahma, he's the first created being. Wow, looks like no one's here before me. I'm the first person that's here, man. I'm the best. I'm the top. I'm the greatest. Guess what? I even got 4 heads. I got more heads than every living entity in this creation, even though it's only 4. I mean, there are the Brahmas that got 100 heads, right? But even that Brahma with 100 heads, guess what? He's got 100 heads. He's got more heads than everybody in the universe. Now, if you in that position, first created being, the secondary creator, you've seen Krishna first, but even then, before that, I got 4 heads. I'm the most intelligent. I'm here before everybody else. You'll start getting a superiority complex. I'm better than anyone else. And as soon as you get this idea, I'm better than anyone else, I'm better than you, I'm better than this person, unfortunately, that becomes an unknown. So therefore, Prabhupada is making the point that Brahma, another aspect of why he was successful, is because he did not have a superiority complex. Humility, humbleness, being a servant of the servant of the servants, not becoming proud, not letting the advancement and the process get to your head. Oh, just see, you so nice, you did such nice service, yes, and then your head becomes like a balloon. We should be very, very careful. Just consider Srila Prabhupada. He spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and then they said, Srila Prabhupada, just see, you spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Prabhupada said, no, I didn't. It was my Guru Maharaj. It was my Guru Maharaj who sent you all. It was Krishna who sent you all. So to not let pride, superiority complex come in the way, we should be very, very careful. Raghunath Das Goswami describes pride as donkey's urine. So we have to be very careful. This is a dangerous obstacle. Yeah, there are many analogies given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Raghunath Das Goswami in terms of pride. Yes, very, very poisonous. To think I'm a better devotee than anyone else. Then Prabhupada continues, impersonal realization of the effulgence of the Lord's body is not the highest perfectional stage, nor is the stage of Paramatma realization. The word Manisita is significant. Everyone is falsely or actually proud of his so-called learning. But the Lord says that the highest perfectional stage of learning is to know him and his abode devoid of all illusion. So we should never fall prey to pride. 23. Pratyadishtam maya tatra tai karma vimohite tapo me hridayam shakshad atmaham tapason nagha anagha. O sinless Brahma. Another qualification. Anaga. Krishna also addressed Arjuna as Anaga. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penances when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. Wonderful. The penance by which one can see the personality of Godhead face to face is to be understood as devotional service to the Lord and nothing else, because only by discharging devotional service in transcendental love can one approach. Such an amazing statement. The process that we are engaging in, the process of Bhakti Yoga, the process of Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is penance. Like we mentioned, everyone is engaging some sort of austerity, some penance. We are sacrificing our time right now that we could use and employ in myriads of ways. But here we are hearing Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports. That is a sacrifice. That is a penance. Now, this penance, and we could extend this to anything else, right? Just like attending Mangalarti. You could be sleeping, but there you are attending Mangalarti. Penance. So, any activity in devotional service that is penance, by which we can see the personality of Godhead face to face. Any process of devotional service that we are engaging in, the outcome is we're going to see Krishna face to face. Is to be considered as devotional service to the Lord. And nothing else, because only by discharging devotional service in transcendental love can one approach the Lord. And I like to read the next sentence because that's connected to what Lord Krishna has mentioned. Such penance is the internal potency of the Lord and is non-different from him. Which means that whatever austerity I am performing in devotional service, firstly, it has nothing to do with the material energy. I'm already in contact with the internal potency, and I'm already in contact with Krishna, because The process is not different from the Supreme Personality of God. Again, related to the means is also not different from the end. This is how and why the process is so powerful. Chanting the holy name of Krishna is the process, and chanting the holy name of Krishna, being the holy name of Krishna, is Krishna. So therefore, when we're engaging in the penance, the austerity, the difficulty, the challenge of Krishna consciousness, even the chanting of Hare Krishna, we should understand that that austerity, that difficulty that I'm embracing is actually devotional service. It's actually the internal potency. It's actually non different from the Lord. I am directly in contact with Krishna. And if I'm doing that activity and I die, it's glorious. Such acts of internal potency are exhibited by non-attachment for material enjoyment. Now, we mentioned that the process is there, and the attitude behind that process is also key. Somebody may say, okay, so I'm engaging in chanting Hare Krishna, which is glorious, but I'm not getting the desired result. Why? Because the attitude is missing. The ulterior motive needs to be analyzed. If the motive, the attitude, and the process of penance are all intact, all aligned with Hari Guru and Vaishnavas, then we are actually contacting the eternal potency, and we are contacting the Supreme Lord, and we will get the desired result. And how will that desired result be visible? Non-attachment for material enjoyment. How is it exhibited? How are we able to see non-attachment for material enjoyment? You have no taste for material enjoyment, however that material enjoyment may manifest itself. There is no attachment. You have no taste. You've lost taste. Okay, so what is your taste for? Is for the penance of devotional service. So this is how we can measure, we can gauge, we can see, are we progressing? Now, yes, it may not go from 0 to 100. Or rather, let's put it that way. It's not going to go from 100 to 0. I'm so absorbed, focused, my life, my ulterior motive, all my resource, my energy is all there for material enjoyment. That's a fully blossomed, perfected, materialistic entity. Karmi, as Prabhupada would write in his Bhaktivedanta purports. Karmi sent, sent and sent through, like fully 100%. As we progress in devotional service, that mentality to exploit, to enjoy material facilities outside the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, outside the pleasure of Hari Guru and Vaishnavas, will slowly diminish. And I'm sure every one of you every single devotee has some level of realization of this in different degrees in relation to different objects of sense gratification. Like you may have been attached. For example, I was attached to playing volleyball. I loved it. Every day after school, the first thing we would do, come back from school and go play volleyball. So that attachment was there. Soon as I became or I joined Krishna consciousness, became a congregation devotee, started practicing Krishna consciousness, volleyball just dropped. Just like it's like fell off somewhere, off the bellway of the wagon. Don't know what happened. Just like I didn't have to even think about it. Just dropped off. So like that, different attachments, eating attachments, different sensory attachments, hearing nice things, seeing nice things, touching nice things, tasting nice things, smelling nice things, associating with nice things that are all sense gratificatory, all material enjoyment. If I'm maintaining attachment, I should understand that to be an obstacle. If those attachments are not getting reduced, smaller and smaller and smaller, it's a clear sign I'm not applying myself diligently and properly. So again, we are getting Prabhupada's guidance. How to measure myself, how to see, am I making progress? And again, even if I make 1% advancement, I'm happy. In goal setting, they say don't set high goals. Set small goals in relation to the high goal. Why? Because if you set small goals and you achieve those small goals, then you become excited, you become happy, you become enthused and motivated to continue. If you set a high goal, it's like, ish, I'm not getting there. You start to become demotivated, depressed. So as long as I am making advancement, step by step, Srila Rupa Goswami says, krama, step by step. But by engagement in devotional service of the Lord, one becomes detached from this enjoying spirit. The devotees automatically become detached from worldly enjoyment. And this detachment is the result of perfect knowledge. Therefore, the penance or devotional service includes knowledge and detachment. And that is the manifestation of transcendental potency. Sense gratification and spiritual life goes ill together. You do not get it's like Narad Muni. Somebody is seeing Narad Muni surfing in the ocean. It's like, no, sorry, it's a contradiction. Narad Muni is traveling with his Veena, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, encountering souls and giving them Krishna Katha. He's not going to waste his time enjoying the waves in the ocean. So we have to understand, engage our advancement in relation to the knowledge that we've received, in relation to the practice that we're embracing, in relation to the attitude that we are applying the process and the practice, and then seeing the outcome. Am I becoming detached from material sense gratification? Am I becoming attached to the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hearing and chanting and serving? If the answer is yes, I am in a healthy state of spiritual life. If the answer is no, reevaluate, adjust your bearings. Just like a pilot who's flying, if he sees that he's 1 degree off, he's going to recalculate. Because if he says, it's only 1 degree, it's okay. As soon as you motivate your material sense gratification and you say it's okay, trust me, it's going to go 2, 3, 4. And before you know it, you're way off the course. So always readjust. With good association and keep on the track. Prabhupada continues. One cannot enjoy material illusory propensity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. I will repeat. One cannot enjoy material illusory prosperity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. Material sense enjoyment, material illusory prosperity goes ill with spiritual progress, going back home, back to God. You can't have the material world and the spiritual world both. Sorry. Just like try crossing the river with 2 boats, 1 leg in each boat. Good luck. It's not going to work. You need to be in one of the boats. One of the boats is either material or the other is a spiritual. Prabhupada continues, one who has no information of the transcendental bliss in the association of the Lord foolishly desires to enjoy this temporary material happiness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that if someone sincerely wants to see the Lord and at the same time wants to enjoy material world, he is considered to be a fool only. One who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering into the eternal kingdom of God. So we can gauge, we can see according to our attachments. And then we can gauge, am I going back to Godhead? Well, if you have attachments for material illusory prosperity, then sorry, because you're not going to find those things there. And then you're going to ask Krishna, where's this? Oh, it's there. And there you are. You're back there. So then why do you have to go there to come back here? You might as well stay here. Only one who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering into the eternal kingdom of God. The Lord favors such a foolish devotee by snatching all that he has possessed, that he may possess in the material world. If such a foolish devotee of the Lord tries to recoup his position, then the merciful Lord again snatches away all that he has possessed. By such repeated failures in material prosperity, he becomes very unpopular with his family members and friends. In the material world, the family members and friends honor persons who are very successful in accumulating wealth by any means. The foolish devotee of the Lord is thus put into forcibly penance by the grace of the Lord, and at the end, the devotee becomes perfectly happy, being engaged in the service of the Lord. So if one is sincere and one has attachments, Krishna will make the arrangements to purify us for our own benefit. Therefore, penance and devotional service of the Lord, either by voluntary submission or by being forced by the Lord, is necessary for attaining perfection. And thus such penance is the internal potency of the Lord. One cannot, however, be engaged in a penance or devotional service without being completely free from all So now we have another measurement. Nectar Devotion says pure devotional service really starts after liberation. Then what am I engaging now? Mixed devotional service. As long as I have sins, I'm not engaging in pure devotional service. So I need to become totally free from all sins. Therefore, Cheto Darpana Marjana. I need to have a pure heart, and my heart needs to be pure. Then I can engage in pure devotional service. And then I'm able to see the Lord face to face. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only a person who is completely free from all reactions of sins can engage himself in the worship of the Lord. Brahmaji was sinless, and therefore he faithfully discharged the advice of the Lord, Tapa, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, awarded him the desired result. Therefore, only love and penance combined can please the Lord, and thus one is able to attain his complete mercy. He directs the sinless, and the sinless devotee attains the highest perfection of life. So we need to become free from sins, free from material sense enjoyment, have the proper attitude, engage in pure devotional service, or engage in devotional service according to the standards laid down by Srila Prabhupada. And in due course, we will have the desired result. 24. Shrijami tapase vedam grasami tapasa puna vibarmi tapasa vishvam viryam me duscharam tapa. I created this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy. I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potential power is penance only. In executing penance, one must be determined to return home, back to Godhead, and must decide to undergo all types of tribulations for that end. Are we convinced? Are we determined that no matter what, I am focused, I know the goal, I'm convinced of the goal, and no matter what comes on the path, I'm not giving up. And obstacles will be there. There will be obstacles from Maya. There will be obstacles internally. There will be obstacles of health. There will be obstacles of people around you. There will be obstacles of those who have faith in. There will be obstacles in the society. There will be obstacles, of exploitation in the material world, exploitation from those who are apparently on the path of spiritual life. There will be unlimited obstacles that will come across, that we'll have to face. Big, small, doesn't matter. Is one determined to return home back to Godhead? Is one convinced that no matter what, I am not giving up this process of chanting Hare Krishna, of surrendering to Prabhupada, of continuing Krishna consciousness? That conviction has to be, because if that conviction, that determination is not there, the first obstacle will derail you. So we need to prepare ourselves. We need to perform this act. So any doubts need to be clarified. Once I'm convinced, the battle is already won. Even for material prosperity, name, fame, one has to undergo severe types of penances. Otherwise, no one can become an important figure in this material world. Now, if the materialists are not giving up for those things which are impossible to achieve, why can we not develop the same determination not to give up Krishna consciousness? Why then would there not be severe types of penances for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master. And to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. Only one who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. So we want to continue to follow the orders of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas painstakingly, no matter how difficult. We keep at the process. 25. Brahmo Vacha Bhagavan Sarva Bhutanam Adyoksho Vashito Guham Vedaya Pratirudena Pragnanena Chikir Shitam. Lord Brahma said, "O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all their endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance whatsoever." The Bhagavad Gita confirms that the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as the witness, and he is thus the supreme director of sanctions. The director is not the enjoyer of the fruits of actions, but without the Lord's sanction, no one can enjoy. For example, in a prohibited area, a habituated drunkard puts forward his application to the director of drinking, and the director, considering his case, sanctions only a certain amount of liquor for drinking. Similarly, the whole material world is full of many drunkards, in the sense that each and every one of the living entities has something in his mind to enjoy, and everyone desires the fulfillment of his desires. And everyone desires the fulfillment of his desires very strongly. The Almighty Lord, being very kind to the living entities, as the Father is kind to the Son, fulfills the living entity's desire for his childish satisfaction. With such desires in mind, the living entity does not actually enjoy, but he serves the bodily whims unnecessarily without profit. The drunkard does not derive any profit out of drinking, but because he has become a servant of the drinking habit and does not wish to get out of it, the merciful Lord gives him all facility to fulfill such desires. The impersonalist recommends that one should become desireless, or in other words, that one should banish desire altogether. That is impossible. No one can banish desires altogether because desire is a symptom of them. Without having desires, a living entity would be dead, which he is not. Therefore, living conditions and desire go together. Perfection of desire may be achieved when one desires to serve the Lord, and the Lord also desires that every living entity banish all personal desires and cooperate with his desires. Prabhupada in preface to Bhagavad Gita says, by cooperation with the Lord's desires, we will be happy. That is the last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. Brahmaji agreed to this proposal, and therefore he is given the responsible post of creating generations in the vacant universe. Oneness with the Lord therefore consists of dovetailing one's desire with the desire of the Supreme Lord. That makes for the perfection of all desires. The Lord and the Supersoul in the heart of every living being, the Lord as the Supersoul in the heart of every living being, knows what is in the mind of each living entity, and no one can do anything without the knowledge of the Lord within. By his superior intelligence, the Lord gives everyone the chance to fulfill his desires to the fullest extent, and the resultant reaction is also awarded by the Lord. So yes, you want to enjoy separately, no problem. Krishna will fulfill. He'll make the arrangements, he will sanction, you will engage, and you will suffer the consequence, even though he is sanctioning. So therefore, Brahma concluded this reciprocation by acknowledging the Supreme Lord as the sanctioner of all activities. And from next week, 26 to 30, we will hear Lord Brahma's conversation and questions to the Lord. Gurantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gopramanande. Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? So very wonderful purports for us to align and measure and keep progressing for the new year. Mata Harini Devidas says, how do we know what the Lord desires? Well, we already covered so many purports, probably saying from Bhagavad Gita, we know what Krishna desires. So many instructions. Krishna says, one who preaches my glory is very dear to me. Prabhupada in the purport has confirmed that again and again. Krishna says, Patram Pushram Phalam Toyam. You give me, this is what Krishna desires. Manmana Bhavan Bhakto, surrender unto me, Krishna's desires. Krishna is Arjuna, do your duty and think of me, Krishna's desires. So Bhagavad Gita is full of Krishna's desires. It's his song. It's his love song. And in this love song of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has put all his desires. Then in the Bhagavatam, we're hearing Krishna's desires through his devotees, through his pastimes. So the Bhagavatam is full of Krishna's desires. Through the acharyas in the line of disciplic succession, through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through the acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarma, Srila Prabhupada, through Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, there is no shortage of knowledge, of understanding Krishna's desires. Inconceivably unlimited, all pervasive. Take every purport, take every verse. It's Krishna's desire. The question is, are we ready to embrace those desires? Because when we put Krishna's desires in place of ours, that is perfection. So yes, through so many mediums, Hari, Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavata Gita, we can know Krishna's desires. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, very nice how Srila Prabhupada mentions Brahma's party, which we are all part of and trying to help them reclaim some souls. Volleyball, Haribol. Volleyball to Haribol. Yes. Busy going through CC now, first time. In Madhya Leela now, still not got a way to go. Yes. Madhuri says you got 99 times more. Are we hesitating? This is the question, Prabhu. Yes. To some degree or other, hesitation can be measured by distraction. As soon as we are distracted to mundane sense gratification, it means hesitation. Yes, purports are masterful by Srila Prabhupada, no doubt. So yes, we have received the greatest fortune by Srila Prabhupada to be part of an entourage of a team that's the most super excellent in Krishna's creation. When we go through the lives of the previous acharyas, this becomes more and more a reality, in effect, that we are connected to such great exemplary acharyas, personalities, that no other disciplic line has. And yes, like Prabhupada said, we have spiritual pride, that I'm proud to be a servant of Krishna, but I don't have material pride. So our pride is that we are so wonderfully part of this family, and that Prabhupada has connected us to, and therefore we can take advantage of that connection, that family, that party, and do our bit of service. To do what? To amplify their glory. So we can be a little instrument in glorifying Srila Prabhupada and this wonderful party of Lobdom. Thank you very much for everyone's time and association. We will meet again next week and continue hearing Lord Brahma's questions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai ko Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.